Welcome, Ryan Young, to the Be the Solution podcast. As an agent from a family of agents, Ryan has always seen the importance of people in real estate. Through his experience building the number one team in Ohio and the number 18 team in the US, Ryan built a guaranteed offer platform to rapidly expand and help his agents thrive. Yet, aware of the many prop tech companies that are competing with agents, Ryan saw an opportunity to build something bigger and better, a platform that solves real challenges for all agents. Leveraging feedback from the top teams across the country, Fello was created, the most powerful lead generation tool in real estate. Since then, Ryan has made it his personal mission to empower all agents with the tools and technology that has empowered his team's success so agents can stay where they belong at the center of every transaction. Ryan Young, great to have you today, Ryan. Welcome to Be the Solution podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yes, I'm excited to dive in with you, my friend. So, Ryan, he comes from Cleveland, Ohio.
Ohio. Yep.
Right? Ohio.
As you can see behind me, it's a beautiful November day in Cleveland.
It
All of a
is.
sudden, I felt like the Indian summer is starting to dissipate, and now reality is setting in. So
It's a beautiful fall day. So, Ryan, you've been in the business for, quite a minute. You're basically your whole life,
yeah.
give or
Yeah.
take.
Well, it's funny because, I joined my folks about 14 years ago. While I never thought I would be in the real estate business, I used to be a chef. That was my past life. I've always been a part of the real estate industry, just with a mom who was an agent. Then my dad joined her. And so it was like an easy transition for me to join them. But it's definitely in my blood. It's hard. My kids, when I was in active production, my wife, it's hard to not be attached to it when us as agents or team leads or whatever we are, it's just a 24/7 type of mindset. And so it's like a lot of times that spills over to the personal life and they know what's going on in your business, just like I did with my parents. And so it's like you kind of just learn at a very early age when you have folks that are in the business, you learn the business. It's things they don't teach you at real estate school when we're getting our license is the things that you learn growing up with parents in the industry.
I bet there was a lot of dinners talking about gutting offers under contract and having to leave the dinner table to make sure a deal gets negotiated before the deadline hits.
Well, here's the funny thing is, so, I joined my folks back in 2009, so 14 years ago. My brother joined us, and my parents are still in the business. They still sell real estate at a really high level in their mid 70s, which is like super just inspirational to me. But my brother's been with us now for about 8 years. My sister is the only one. She lives in Silicon Valley. She works in the tech industry. And so she's like kind of the black sheep of the real estate family. And the funny thing is when we go to dinner with her, we're all together. She always says like, guys, can we go through like the appetizers without talking about real estate at all? Because normally as soon as we sit down, my mom's like, I just lost out on this multiple offer. My brother said, oh, you got to see this house that I just listed. And then my mom's like, well, I have buyers. And we're like sitting there like, guys, can we like compartmentalize the conversation? And so now we've gotten to as a joke as a family, whenever we're eating with my sister when she's in town, is like, can we just get through like the appetizers, the first course, whatever it is, before we're allowed to talk about real estate? If we can make it that long through a dinner without talking about real estate, that's like a huge win for our family. It's also pretty depressing that it's like, we don't know what else to talk about besides real estate. That's really like just what we know as a family, what we love, what we're passionate about. And so it is really funny that like, when you think of like your passions, ours is just so deep in real estate.
Well, that's because you when you love something so much,
For sure.
it just becomes ingrained, right, in the fabric of our day to day.
Sure.
I'm thinking about it as you're talking about it. I think I talk about real estate a lot. My husband helps out, works in our business, and I think about what we talk about at night, and I'll recap the day. I'll say, yeah, this one happened, or this crappy thing happened, or, I'll be hopefully not complaining, but sometimes.
Well, and it's even like the typical, and once again, I'm just wearing, I sold for almost a decade at a pretty high level, just as an individual before I started growing the team. And then also when I was in production while I was on the team. And I'm still the guy that drives by, like, where me and my wife are in our car driving somewhere. I remember when I sold that house. I remember when I sold that house. Oh, the people that bought that house are crazy. Oh, they're the sweetest couple. And then they got divorced. It's like one of those things, like total realtor type of, like, just jargon that we just, I think it's what makes great realtors great, is just like when you love what you do. And, obviously I shifted more into the mindset of a business owner and an operator in the real estate side of things, and almost like detached emotionally from the business. But I was very emotionally attached as I was growing my real estate business when I first got into it. A lot of pride, a lot of passion. And once again, I think that is a part of the DNA that really makes great agents, the competitiveness. That's what sets us apart.
I think that also I use real estate, we talk about it to be the vehicle to live the life of our dreams. And wherever you go, there you are, and real estate is there. I always tell our agents, I said, don't ever take your real estate hat off.
Right.
You're in the store and you hear someone talking about real estate. You're at dinner. People talk about real estate all the time, and people always want to know what's going on in the market. 100%. So you have to be prepared, always to know what's happening, right? And then to provide, it depends on what they want.
And the funny thing about it is, so, I still obviously own and operate the young team, and where we were talking, one of my team members, a newer agent, he's like, I'm going golfing with this actually like big executive. I got invited to this charity event, and like the foursome is like me and this executive and a couple of those other people. And I said, where does he live? And he said, he lives in this town locally to us, really nice area, community. And I'm like, cool. How many homes have been on the market in the past 12 months? What's actively on the market? He's like, I don't know. It's like, where you're about to be spending 5, 6, 7 hours with someone in captive audience, right? They're going to talk about real estate. As soon as they find out you're in real estate, they're going to want to know about real estate. They want to talk about real estate. I'm like, you need to go into that conversation prepared, right? To be able to articulate what is happening in their market. And all of a sudden it'll change the way they look at you as a real estate professional. And so it's like, people, to your point, they're obsessed with talking about real estate. If you look at that SNL skit about Zillow, how people like on Saturday nights are looking at homes on Zillow. We love real estate just in general, not just being agents, but as people, right? And we're obsessed with homeowners and home values and things that are listing and why they're listing and how much they're selling for and what's on the market. It becomes almost a pastime. And our job is to understand the behaviors of the audience, the people, the local homeowners around us, and make sure that we can have an intelligent conversation with them that really makes us look like the professionals, so that we are considered when they are going through, whether it's buying or selling, they consider us as being the professional of their choice to hire.
Absolutely. Always have to be prepared.
For sure.
Said, people say you're lucky. I said, yes, because they're prepared. Prepare. You prepare a long time before you need to prepare. I was listening to a podcast the other day. Do you know Patrick Bet-David?
I don't.
All right. He was on with Brad Lee, and he interviews Patrick Bet-David's now interviewing like very high level people. He wants to interview like presidents. And so Brad asked him, how do you prepare for these interviews? And he had said, I've been preparing for them for 5 years, for 10 years. I've been writing down questions that I want to ask these people a long time before I even had the opportunity to interview them. Yeah. So it's like we prepare before we need to prepare. And having that mindset, I think, it's like tough for people to understand that. Like you have to do the work before the assignment comes.
100%. I mean, my grandpa used to always say, the harder I work, the luckier I get. And it's like, that always resonated with me of like, the right things happen, but it's not really luck. We create our own luck by being prepared, to your point. And being prepared is sometimes not necessarily knowing what we're preparing for. And I think that's
correct.
I think that's some people really struggle with that idea, that thought of like training for something when we don't even know what we're potentially training for, but so that we are prepared when that opportunity does strike, and so we can capitalize on that or convert it, right? That's a mindset thing.
That is a mindset thing. I started to do a daily video on June 18th. So that's been just tomorrow will be 5 months.
Yeah.
I think that's 5 months.
Yep.
2 days ago, I opened up my Facebook and I watched a video that I did last year, exactly 1 year ago. And my Clarice said, "Wow, you sound so different and your videos are so different." And she's like, "Well, I don't know what it is." I said, "Well, since I've been doing one every single day for sometimes between could be 5 minutes and 30 minutes, and then the podcast and then the Saturday Q&A. I don't know what I'm preparing for, but
Right.
you have to get better when you do it like this because it's not once a week video, every single day, 7 days a week, and then podcast in between."
Yeah.
I look back. I think this is like really an important thing for people to hear. Look back a year and I recognize my voice is much more calm, steady. I'm not as animated. I'm Italian, part Italian, so I'm very, by nature, very animated, but I'm not as animated. And I'm not sure exactly to your point, like what I'm preparing for, but I think it's something. I do think it's something. And I want to segue into that. How did you know did you know you were preparing for Fellow?
No, not at all. What I do know is that I like to challenge myself. I was talking to John Cheplack about this on a call with him, and I like to surround myself with people that I kind of like aspire to be, right? And I see people that have built big things. And this is even when I first got into real estate and I saw people that had bigger teams within my market. And I really that was really attractive to me. And it was really influential in me starting to build my team within like Northeast Ohio, within Cleveland. Then once I started building a bigger team in Cleveland, I started surrounding myself with people that were building bigger teams outside of Cleveland. And so I started really spending time with them and learning from them and like following them, and started wanting to grow a bigger team in the country. And I started to realize with Fello that there's the real estate industry. Obviously you can run a very big business, but you're somewhat, and this might be a limiting mindset or belief, but like you're somewhat limited to the scale of the operational footprint that you have, or you can obviously start expanding into other markets, but it's like, I wanted something that was going to like turbocharge, like massively viral type of growth, right? And once I started to dabble a little bit around technology that we built for us internally, I started to see that there was an application where we could get this into the hands of everyone all over the entire country. And so it's like, I started becoming really attracted to the idea of like, what's that next step up? Well, I could keep focusing my energy and effort on growing the young team, which we do, but it's like, that's 20% growth year over year, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's a great business. We're very fortunate to run the business that we do, but I wanted something that was like 500% year over year growth, something like massive, something special, something that makes like a huge difference in the industry. And so Fello was more of along the lines of like, I kind of fell into it, but I've always had that appetite to do something bigger. I've always been attracted to doing something bigger. And once I started to realize that like something that I built for myself could actually be that next thing. And the funny thing is, I joke with my wife, I don't know what's next after Fello, but I know there will be a next. I'm always thinking like, what bigger, that's what gets me excited. That's what gets me out of bed. That's what keeps my brain 24/7, nonstop thinking about this stuff. So I say it of like, it was accidental, but it was also intentional. Like there's always going to be something next. I just didn't know this was what it was.
So I'm going to ask you, how did it come to be?
So it came to be of just several little decisions throughout the course of my real estate career that got to where we are. And I'll kind of just a really quick, like high level, like roadmap. In about 2015 or 2016, I started doing the guaranteed sale, right? Like if I can't sell your home, I'll buy it. This was like one of the things that really helped us start to grow our real estate team, especially from a seller lead generation standpoint. Then in like 2019, I started to actually buy homes. So I started getting people that were saying like, just sell me your home, which then opened my eyes up to the market that there was. Then we really wanted to start buying homes at scale. So we built technology to really focus on acquisition of assets of homes, right? Then what happened was we started actually buying about 20 homes a month in Northeast Ohio. And we said, wait, we could scale this throughout the entire country. And so as we were buying homes and seeing all these seller leads that were coming in, we realized that the true value behind buying homes at scale was really all of the seller opportunities, because such a small percentage actually sold us their home. But then we had all these seller leads that they actually ended up listing their home traditionally with us, which then made us realize that the true value of that message of, I want to buy your house, cash offer on your home, was seller lead generation, which then had us focus our effort on, wait, let's build a seller lead gen platform, right? And then the funny thing is, although it started as cash offer, we realized that not a lot of agents around the country are comfortable doing a cash offer. So we needed to diversify the message and say, let's just focus on a seller lead gen platform and make it completely customizable to whatever the agent is comfortable marketing to help them, drive these seller leads. So it's like literally all these little decisions throughout the career of exploring from the guaranteed sale all the way to a seller lead gen tech platform. It's amazing how, each little decision we kind of built off of it and then turned it into something bigger.
So exciting. So you launched this about 24 months ago, or?
We launched this October of last year, so 13 months ago.
Oh,
13 months, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's growing
quick.
Yeah, it's
So
go ahead.
No, so for those that don't know what Fello is, why don't you go ahead and give a little bit of a dive into that?
Yep. So super high level without getting like too feature heavy. What we're really focused on is helping agents acknowledge and create awareness around the value of your database, and that your database is your largest asset, right? And I think historically over the past probably 10 years, we've become obsessed with new lead acquisition, right? As agents, we just are really focused on like, I need to buy more leads. And what we have found is that your database actually has a ton of listings and sellers sitting right in it that we haven't even discovered. What Fello really focuses on is helping you reconvert your database and a lot of those old buyer leads and leads that have been pretty dormant and stagnant into driving them into potential seller funnels and converting them over to listings. And so, what we're really passionate about is helping agents become more listing based, more seller lead gen or reconversion heavy, start to have really predictability around seller lead generation, and therefore having predictability around generating listings.
Yes, we have the software, and it's great and very frustrating with the fact that we could see who listed on the market with another person.
Yeah. Well, and this is the biggest thing. When we sit down with agents, the data is starting to show us that about 5% of your database is listing their home every year. And most people are like, well, I don't understand how that is. If you have 10,000 contacts in your database, that means you should be seeing about 500 listings in your database a year. Well, I think the reason why we don't realize that is, first off, we don't realize how many of the actual contacts that we have in our database are local homeowners. And so the first thing Fello helps people do is discover who the local homeowners are in their database that maybe they didn't know were homeowners, right? Then the next thing we do is obviously we help them incubate them and try to help them to raise their hand so that the agent has an opportunity to list their home when it happens. But where it's gotten really scary in a good way, right, is we actually scan their database every day, every address that they have, and we show them in real time every address that's going to market, whether with or without them. And so what's happened is, and we launched this about 45 days ago, what's happening is it's creating this like wild stir up within the Fello group of like, I don't think agents realize like how many opportunities we actually have sitting right in front of us, but we've never had visibility into them actually going to market. So unless we're actually watching every address and matching back and looking at the MLS every day, and then going to our database and going through every single contact, and when you have 5, 10, 20, 50, 100,000 contacts, it's possible, right? So now what's happening is agents are getting notified every day of all these listings in their database that are actually going to market. And it's really created awareness around a conversion problem that we have. And, right before we started talking, when you were like, my job every day now, and what I'm most focused on is just having conversations with people, you will start to see that your conversion of those addresses or those listings that are going to market in your database without you, you'll start to increase that conversion just by having conversations with people. Because this has created this awareness around how many people list without us. Now, at least you're putting forth the effort, right, of actually getting in front and having conversations with people. And I think naturally, us as agents, when we find out someone listed without us, we want to like point the finger at them and be like, how could they? Instead of actually looking in the mirror and saying, why didn't we ... Why didn't I check in with them more? Why didn't I try to provide them more value? Why didn't I be a resource to them when I didn't know they were considering selling their home? How could I have been more of a resource to them so that when they were ready to sell their home, that they consider me as the logical choice for that job, right? And it's really starting to like create awareness around us as agents and team leads of all the opportunities that we're missing out on. And it's been such a game changer. And if the thing that I'm now most passionate about, now that we've observed what that conversion actually is, I'm really passionate about helping agents convert more of those opportunities in their name so that we stop losing these listings to other agents.
Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. I think that one thing for us is a little bit eye-opening is how quickly the expireds are listing back on the market. So a big portion of ours, because we put our land voice in there in the database, you could see that they're relisting. So it's a little bit skewed because expireds are going to list quicker, right? So that just shows us the opportunity is there, and that we have now some of them relist with the same people, but whatever.
Sure.
But here's the deal. You asked me earlier, like, how's my market? I said, I don't really know, in the sense of, not that I don't know, but because I'm taking so much action and I'm so busy because I have new assignments. I
Yep.
say assignments because we do resi commercial. So it'll be, a commercial client or residential, something with a lender or something like that. So it's all varies. I don't have time to think about it.
Right.
So here's the point. Real estate agents that are listening to this, look in your MLS, open up your MLS, tell me how many homes sold in your area in the last 30 days and how many of them were yours,
Right.
because that's the opportunity.
Yeah.
So there is plenty of business, maybe not for everybody, but for the people that are the most skilled and the most hungry. You can outwork a shitty market. You just can't outspend it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the 100%. And that's just music to my ears, because when you look at these real sellers and we talk about the conversion, that's exactly what it's showing you is you're looking at the overall market, right? And we'll call it like a total addressable market of the number of total homes in the past 30 days. I want to take it one step smaller and say, all right, let's look at just in your database, the amount of listings that actually went active, right? Then we'll take it one step shorter that says, all right, now of those, how many did you list? So now we have some like real data to say, all right, that, and I'm just going to use arbitrary numbers. That there was 1,000 homes that went to market in the past 30 days in your region or in the area that you service. And of those 1,000, you had 100 within your database that actually went to market. So 10%. And then of those 100, you listed 10 of them. So that you listed 10 of 1,000, but you also know that you had an upside of listing another 90, right? Because there was 100 total. I think a lot of times what we lose out on is, and this is why I say the value and the importance of the database, I think sometimes what we lose out on is we're so focused on the 10 to the 1,000 that we don't realize that all the real opportunities are sitting in our database, and that's in the middle. And so it's like, the more we can show people that like you listed 10, but you could have actually listed 100 that you actually had in your database, there's a lot more opportunities just in your database, let alone in the entire market,
There's a ton of opportunity. But if somebody didn't have a database that
Sure,
right, they could look for other opportunities. I mean, expired listings, I don't know how many of in your market, but there's a lot of them here now. It's a great source of business.
FSBOs are still a great source of business. I think that's one of the things that is, to your point, we're obsessed with spending, right? Or outspending the market, I think, as you said. It's like, you don't need to spend anything. Sure, you can spend money to get an expired data source, right? Or circle prospecting source or whatever it is. But it's like, that is such a small investment where your sweat equity is where all the return on investment is, versus some agents just want to spend a ton of money, have no equity in the relationship, and ultimately their margins are so small where eventually it just doesn't make financial sense to run that business model.
No, it doesn't. So it's like, so things like, okay, so you have your database, you email the database, you send them videos, you call, expired listings, you call, you send text, you send email, you send a direct mail letter, right? With a Fello code on there that says scan me for your home value.
Yep.
That's what we started doing.
Yep.
You scan it, then you get that information into the database, and now you can contact them. But it's not one thing, right? So it's a mixture of everything.
Yeah.
The more you talk to that database, that's one thing I've learned, is that I send videos to the database. So when our agents are calling into the database, they know who MQA is, right? They probably know who the Ryan Young team is, because they're not just hearing about real estate things. I'll send things that are inspirational, aspirational, motivational, that have nothing to do with real estate. I'll talk about time management. Yesterday I talked about time management.
I love
But
that.
anyway, I
What I think is most important is, especially in long-term incubation, is providing them value, right? One of the things that we are very focused on with Fello is, we started our original kind of like thesis around the idea of like, anyone who owns a home, the most relevant message to that homeowner is, how much is your home worth, right? It's a very simple message, but it's very practical and relevant to anyone that owns a home, right? If you're a homeowner and you get a message of, are you curious how much your home's worth, that message is relevant to you. Well, unfortunately though, while that creates engagement, it doesn't start to show intentionality. So one of the things that I think we are really leaning into, both with Fello and also with the Young team, is, how can I make sure that I get that relevant message to someone that's considering selling or moving their way down the funnel? And what we found is, it all centers around value. What is valuable information for someone that's getting ready to sell their home, whether it's in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months? But how can we be a resource to them so that they value what we're actually providing to them, and that they consider us when they're getting ready to sell? And so that could include things like, here are the best improvements you should make before you get your home on the market. Here are some resources that we've used that help our clients get their homes ready for market. Here are things that we would recommend financially you do before you get your home on the market. Whatever it is, where it's like, I want to make sure that I'm actually being a resource to them. I feel like we've seen a much higher conversion just organically by providing relevant information to them, where they actually start reaching out to us when they're ready to transact, versus us trying to convince them, right, when essentially they're not ready yet. And it's amazing how it's the best. But it's, once again, like we talked about earlier before the call, of like, we're setting ourselves up for that outcome by being very strategic and intentional with what we're getting in front of them. We are outbounding to them, right? But we're doing it, instead of calling them and saying, are you ready to sell your home? We're actually doing that and actually providing value to them, right? That they're absorbing and they're sitting on. And that way, when they're ready, now all of a sudden we're attracting them to us.
100%. It's the best way. It's the best way to go.
It's the best way to go. And 100%.
Yeah. Drawing, attracting.
For
Nobody
sure.
wants to be sold, but everybody wants to buy.
Correct. 100%.
Right?
Love that. Yep.
Yeah. So I know you have some new things rolling out before the end of the year with Fello.
Yep.
When you want to talk about some of those?
Yes. Speaking of, just right message to the right person at the right time, one of the things we're really excited about is, we have found a lot of engagement through email, right? And one of the things that Fello has done a really good job with is creating engagement through email. But the other thing that we're starting to see there's a huge opportunity in is actually in the direct mail space. And so we're really starting to lean heavy in, Maria mentioned pushing QR codes on postcards and stuff like that. We're actually starting to lean really heavily into targeted direct mail, which is about to launch in Q4, where we can essentially start. identifying people that are getting more motivated, right? And actually start sending direct mail sequences or campaigns to them. That's going to hopefully not only give you the ability to get in front of their inbox, but also in their mailbox. Just a second way to be called a multi-attack, or getting in front of them through multiple channels. And then obviously everything we do pushes over to the agent CRM. So then you can have your automated texting and calling plans as well. But we want to make sure that they're seeing our agents from every different angle, making sure that they're getting your email and then they're going to their mailbox and opening up and seeing a postcard all branded to you, which is really going to help you increase conversion. What's really cool about it though is you're in complete control. When we talk about being highly targeted, we leverage the email and the opens and the clicks to show behavior, who's actually motivated and where they are from an intentionality standpoint. And so what I know is I can send postcards to people after they've opened up X amount of emails from me through Fello or clicked on their home value dashboard multiple times. So that way we're not burning money with people that have no idea who we are. We can make sure that we're becoming even that much more highly targeted because they've already been engaging with something that we've been sending to them. It's really cool. We've got all kinds of fun segmentation, automation, different ways, once again, to back to that core mission of helping agents generate more listings. Whatever we can do that supports that in the most efficient way, both cost effectively way, but also from a user standpoint, what creates the best user experience without over inundating them with so much messaging that it actually has them resist us.
Exciting times ahead, Ryan. Exciting times ahead. I think this is a wonderful time to be in real estate amidst all the other nonsense that's going on that's out of our control. When we started the podcast before in the green room, talking about control the controllables. Yeah. That's what I say every day. Control the controllables.
Yeah. Well, we can't control the market. We can't control lawsuits. We can't control interest rates, but what we can control is our actions, our efforts. And that just, once again, applies to the harder I work, the luckier I get. You're going to see a lot of people in 5 years from now are going to have a ton of success. And you're also going to have people on the outside pointing fingers and saying they're so lucky. They got lucky. They had a lucky break, whatever it is. And it all goes back to they created their outcome. They created their luck. And I genuinely believe that.
100%. The proof is in the pudding. What we put in, we get out for sure. 100%. So, Ryan, before you roll off today, any podcasts that you love, you recommend?
What's so funny is I need to get hip to the podcast game. I'm really not a podcast guy. And it's so funny because I've actually over the past maybe 6 months now been invited to multiple podcasts, which has been really fun. And it's actually really cool to participate in them. But it's I definitely don't have something that I'm obsessed with where it's I listen to. It's more of when people share something to me where the message of the podcast is more relevant to where I am in my business or it's where I'm in life. But it's I would say it's just kind of random podcasts that people send to me with a great message versus a podcast that I'm stuck to every week they release something new.
Fair enough. I like that.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
Sending you some value in regards to some specific subject. So that's cool.
Yeah. But the funny thing is I like reading. I go through these phases where it's I'm obsessed with reading and try to read as much as I possibly can. And normally that's in the beginning of the year. And then all of a sudden I find myself just getting so engulfed in business and family. And it's it's the same thing with podcasts. The idea of, I remember in the beginning of the year, I was doing 75 hard, so I had 75 days of working outside for 45 minutes. A lot of times that would be a walk. And it was that was when I started listening to podcasts. And then of course, once I got out of 75 hard, which I highly recommend for those who haven't done it, I'll definitely do it again. Because I was just consistent every day. And that gave me the time. And you talked about time management versus choice management, right? And it's one of those things that I have just found myself that it's once I got out of 75 hard, I found myself just constantly in the day-to-day rat race and stopped having that me time where I could zone out and listen to those podcasts. But it's definitely something that's on the list of I really enjoyed it while I was doing it.
So this was a good reminder then.
100%. It's like one of those things. Every time like people send like, I think I found myself more attracted to the message of the topic of the podcast versus the general topic of the overall, I guess, the theme of the podcast. If there's like, if there's things that you love, or if there's a podcast that like really resonate with you, like text it over to me. I'll listen to it every time. And it's like, but what I find myself is like, after I listen to it, it's not like, oh, I want to listen to every single podcast by this person. I just haven't gotten that deep into it.
Yeah, well, you do what works. So how can people find you, Ryan, if they want to know more information about Fello and how they can integrate that into their CRM?
Yeah. Ryan at highfellow.com is always the easiest. HI, like hi. Fello, Fello. I'm actually wearing a Fello sweatshirt. Wait, where are we? There we go. So Ryan at highfellow.com. Just shoot me an email. Happy to set you guys up, whatever I can do to help. I'm super passionate about seller lead generation, listing-based businesses, whatever I can do to help you guys do that at a higher level. Reach out. Let's get connected.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on Be the Solution Pod. Grateful and blessed to have you.
Grateful and blessed to be here.